The Minnesota Vikings head into Philadelphia for Monday Night Football as 2.5-point underdogs. The Vikings look to go 2-0 in this game. We're going to talk about some key matchups in this game as well as our thoughts on the outcome right after this.
Let's go.
Big week 2 matchup on a big stage, which is, as I mentioned in the precursor here, Monday Night Football. We play the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. Yes, as we know, the home of 38-7, yada, yada, yada. We don't want to hear about it. I'm surprised I actually haven't heard about it more this week, surprisingly. Thanks, Eagles fans, for not being annoying for once. That's great.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big game. Obviously, the Eagles are coming off a 38-35 win over the Detroit Lions, in which they let Detroit get right back into that game. But yeah, the Eagles, as we know, they have a lot of talent. AJ Brown had a huge game. We'll talk about him a little bit later on here, but Eagles have a ton of talent. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. The huge test week 2. A lot of people are, well, I guess, a lot of people picking Philadelphia to win the East, which doesn't look like it's going to be a hard thing at this point. And some people have them as like a Super Bowl sleeper, which is weird to me. But it's a big game for the Vikings. I think they are going to have their hands full. But I'm excited to see what happens, especially after how they looked against the Packers. What are your thoughts on this game initially?
Just initial thoughts. Honestly, going into the season, I thought they did a lot of improvements during the off seasons. Just getting AJ Brown was big just by itself, honestly. Other than that, I think for me, and we're going to dive into this very soon, I think we just need to figure out how to stop Jalen Hurts running, and I think we're good. I think we win this game. I think that's the only thing I'm worried about. And like you said right before this video, we're 2.5 point underdogs in this game. People need to keep sleeping, I guess, because we're going to end up coming through this game 2-0.
Right.
And
I mean, in Philadelphia, they're trying to pull out all the stops. They took Janarius Robinson off our practice squad. They're going to pick his brain and see what we've been doing. It's Philadelphia tactics right there. But Jalen Reagor, we got him from them. Maybe he can give us a little insight of what they were doing. Jalen Reagor, I'm calling it now. He's going to have a punt return touchdown against these guys this week. Calling it. It's going to be amazing to watch. But anyway, I say maybe let's jump into some key matchups here and talk a little bit more in depth about this game, huh?
Yeah, let's do that. Before we do that, though, I want to thank everybody for watching the GG Sport podcast of the Minnesota Vikings. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, get notifications for more of our videos, all that good stuff. Let's jump into this matchup, starting with the one that we were just beginning on.
Yeah, so Eric Kendricks versus Jalen Hurts. So last week, Jalen Hurts in the passing game, 18 of 32, 243, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's fine, but Jalen Hurts on the ground, 17 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Now, here's the and Jamie, when we were putting together these matchups, Jamie brought up the good point that back in the back in the Mike Zimmer Minnesota Vikings era, running quarterbacks and quarterbacks that really scramble around a lot always gave us fits. I mean, obviously, we saw what happened with Kyler Murray last year. So I think this matchup here is going to be huge. Ed Donatel is a smart guy. Kevin O'Connell is a smart guy when they're discussing what they want to do on defense this week. I do think that you got to put some sort of a spy on him just with the way he runs the ball. And Eric Kendricks, the best linebacker we have, super athletic. He's done it before. I think he's going to be up to the task for sure. And I think he's going to have to be up to the task against a guy like this. I hope Ed Donatel's defense can come in and hold him hold him well under 90 yards. I guess we'll see. But with Jalen Hurts, that is something you got to watch. You got to watch out for, which makes him a big fantasy quarterback too, is the guy can run. He's good at it. And when he obviously we saw what he did with AJ Brown last week, he can throw as well. So dual threat quarterback, as I said, always give us fits. This is going to be a big matchup.
Yeah, it's one I'm always worried about. It's always the Russell Wilsons, even though for whatever reason he doesn't run anymore. But guys like Russell Wilson, they always just tear us up on the ground game. And that's something I've been worried about for the last few years. And actually, in general, this year, I've mentioned it last week, one cause of concern is our rush defense, which we saw at parts of the game. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting last game, but we did see a little stretch where Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon kind of tore us up for a couple drives, but then we ended it and that was great. So that is the big one. I mean, we aren't the Lions, so I can't expect him to run 90 yards against us, but still your quarterback runs 17 carries for 90 yards. Like that's straight running back numbers. And now that he does have a guy like AJ Brown on that squad, it is definitely a little bit more concerning than usual, but I don't know. I still think we got it. We do have Eric Kendricks, who is a great linebacker, and he proved it again last week that he is still that guy in both just from a tackling standpoint and pass defense standpoint. And then also we do have Jordan Hicks, who I believe also he used to be a Eagle. I believe
Yeah.
I think he started
Yep.
with the Eagles, right?
Yep. He did. Yep.
And he looked fantastic last week. So I don't really know how we handle this with the whole 3-4 defense thing, having two outside linebackers, two middle linebackers. I don't know if that will kind of open it up a little bit for us to have kind of two guys pay a little bit more attention to that than just having like your one single middle linebacker is normal.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, you're going to have to do something like that. It's obvious that anybody who plays the Eagles, your main goal is to stop Jalen Hurts. And then, and I'll just bring it up now too. Patrick Peterson. So we need to stop Jalen Hurts, but then we need someone to stop AJ Brown. If we can stop his running, AJ Brown's still out there. We need that guy to be probably Patrick Peterson, as I'm assuming he'll be the main guy covering AJ Brown. And Patrick Peterson had an up and down game last week and almost allowed that big touchdown. Didn't happen. That helps him a lot, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, that's the biggest concern is Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Stop Jalen Hurts, obviously, and AJ Brown is the other guy. But just stop, or I think if we can just stop the run game from Jalen Hurts, I think we win this game.
Yeah, for sure. And also we got to remember too, they do have Devontae Smith. He was held without a catch last week on 4 targets, yes. But as we know about Devontae Smith, the guy's got a ton of talent there. So, but yeah, this matchup right here is a big one for sure, especially with our history against running quarterbacks. Let's hope new coaching staff, new field.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping, man. If we go in there and we stop the run, if we stop the quarterback from running, especially a guy like Jalen Hurts, who's arguably, I mean, you can probably say arguably, maybe it's hard to say not Lamar Jackson, but the best just strictly running quarterback. He just does it a little bit different than Lamar does, but
yeah. So next one, this next little bit here is gonna have a lot to do about receivers versus corners. And of course, you can't have a Vikings video without talking about Justin Jefferson, of course. So Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen going up against Gardner Johnson, as well as Darius Slay. And this matchup is one that I think is going to be super fun to watch. Obviously, the Eagles traded for Gardner Johnson from the New Orleans Saints, and Darius Slay has been with the team for quite a while at this point. Yeah, man, this is going to be a fun one to watch. Obviously, we know what Justin Jefferson did last week: 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. Adam Thielen, what do you have? 3 catches for 30 some yards, I think. But with how wide open Justin Jefferson was running last week, I understand why he got the ball so many times. But Adam Thielen, let's not forget, Adam Thielen is a really good receiver in his own right, and I think he's gonna have a much bigger game this week. I think Philadelphia is gonna be a little smarter about Justin Jefferson and realize you're gonna need somebody to cover him. So I don't think he's gonna be running as wide open, especially against these 2 really good cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a matchup to watch as well. I think Thielen is actually going to come out and have a really big game in this one. I think obviously JJ is going to get his, but I think Thielen's going to play well. I think KJ is going to be pretty good as well. But yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson is still Justin Jefferson though. He's still going to get it. He's still going to get his, and it's still going to look good. But this is a matchup I'm really looking forward to. Can JJ do it again? And I think he'll be able to, especially if when we talk about the next grouping later with Kirk and the offensive line and whatnot. We'll get into that a little bit here, but I think JJ could be poised for another big week here.
Yeah. I just think he's just incredible. I mean, technically, most people would probably call the Eagles secondary worse than the Packers. So, I mean, the way he tore up the Packers, I think there was a stat out there where he had like an average of 4 yard separation or something crazy like that. And I think he comes in here and I don't think they're just going to be able to stop him either. And that's the thing. I would like to see some of our other players get involved, but what do you do? I mean, if JJ's playing that dominant, I don't know what you do, but I would like to see a little bit KJ Osborne, a little bit Adam Thielen, just because I'm assuming that they gotta, I mean, with Justin Jefferson this game, like they have to pay attention to him so much. You think is JJ really just that good where it doesn't matter how much you're paying attention to him? Because if it does, I mean, it really could be. And if that is the case, then I guess, I don't know, you just keep throwing to JJ, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at Devontae Adams in that Packers offense for all those years. Like everybody knew he was getting the ball and he still got it. So and JJ's that talent level. He's, people are now finally, after a big week 1, talking about him as being the top wide receiver in the game, finally starting to get some credit, just like the rest of the team is. But
but we could even help him out a little more. And even though obviously 183 yards is insane, But if we got the ball thrown around a little bit, spread it out a little bit, especially if they're putting, like, they're going to have to put at least a couple of guys on JJ on by themselves and keep another third guy somewhere keeping an eye, like a JJ, Justin Jefferson spy or something, like 4 guys or something, because we have so much talent on other spots on this team, from the wide receiver spot with Thielen and KJ Osborne, that if they're paying attention to JJ, you should just push towards KJ and Adam Thielen. Just allow JJ open even more than he actually already is. And I do think we're going to see a little bit more of that. And not just that, but last week, Mund got the start instead of Irv Smith. And then there's reports earlier this week saying that that we were bringing Irv back slowly. And I'm assuming we're going to continue ramping up his snap count and all that stuff. So, we still have a guy like Irv Smith on this team that we haven't really seen too much of yet. And if he gets a bigger role this week, I mean, we might find a whole new dimension there on top of that. In the sense we're already on kind of offensive playmakers, I know the DeAndre Swift had, what did I do with that?
Yeah,
DeAndre Swift had
144 yards and a touchdown,
15 carries,
9.6 yards per carry.
Right. Yeah, DeAndre Swift's a stud. He's a stud. But 100, it's still the Lions, though, so you're never that worried.
Right.
144 yards, a touchdown. Jamal Williams didn't do as good on the average point with 28 yards, but had 2 touchdowns. So we still have Delvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, CJ Ham in the backfield. And I just think our offense is just so studly. Right. And you just can't pay attention to only Justin Jefferson. That's just the thing. You just can't pay attention only to him.
For sure. And as you said about Irv, we talked him up a lot fantasy-wise, so he's going to have to start doing something to make us look a little smarter.
I have him on my team.
But also, you mentioned Delvin Cook, and a big part of Delvin Cook's game, he had rushed for 90 yards against the Packers. But what's really going to decide Delvin Cook's fate as a running back this season is the play of the offensive line. And let's jump into them right now a little bit. So last week, Ed Ingram, we saw in the first half, he had a few bad reps. He had that one where he got just passed up quickly by Rashawn Gary on the one sack the Packers had. Bradbury, I mean, honestly, watching, second half Ingram picked it up pretty well. So obviously we're not, I don't want to make it sound like we're saying he didn't play well. He had struggled to start, of course, his first start as a rookie. Bradbury, I didn't notice I didn't really, watching, I didn't notice him getting blown up too much. I'm sure, probably happened somewhere where he didn't notice it, but Fletcher, Kenny, and that's against Kenny Clark. It doesn't get any easier this week against Fletcher Cox. Obviously he's getting up there a little bit in age, but the guy can still play ball. What did he have for tackles last week? Let's take a look here. He had 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, half a sack. So he's still getting to the quarterback. Delvin, he didn't, he was kind of getting hit near the line of scrimmage, didn't have a lot of big runs, but if these two can push Fletcher Cox out of the way, maybe Delvin, maybe Madison start getting some big runs going, and Kirk Cousins has enough time to get it to Justin Jefferson, get it to Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith Jr., CJ Ham, whoever else. And that's what's going to make this team complete. Like, obviously, Delvin Cook ending up with 90 yards for how the game looked to start was pretty good. But if we could really balance that out, this offense could be unstoppable. And it all starts, as we said before the season started, all the talent's there. It all starts and stops with the offensive line. And so far after the first week, I was pleasantly surprised with how they played. But these two here are going to be the 2 offensive linemen that really decide, is this offense going to excel, especially this week against the Eagles, where it might be a high scoring affair. Who knows?
We'll get into some predictions in a bit here, but yeah, dude, I absolutely agree. You have to keep giving good big props to our offensive line last week. They held for the most part, they held Packers defensive line, especially with the talent they have, up really well. I think there's no question in my mind that when there was pressure, it definitely was coming from the interior, and we didn't see tons of it. There was like that, like you said, with Ed Ingram, because right in the beginning of the game, like that first drive, it seemed like Kirk Cousins literally had all day. In that whole game, he just seemed like he had more time than we're used to seeing him have, which really does set everything up for the rest of the game. So that's why I think in this game, I do think when we come out here, I think we should start throwing the ball straight to Adam Thielen's and the KJ Osborne's. I think everybody's going to be so worried about Justin Jefferson on the Eagles defense right away that they're going to do everything to slow that down. So we just start picking them apart with Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith Jr., and then call a Hail Mary on Justin Jefferson out of the blue. Boom. That's what we got to do. That's what we're going to do. First drive. Thielen, he's going to get 2 catches, first 2 catches of the game. KJ Osborne, first down. Justin Jefferson, touchdown.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this is going to be a really high scoring affair. But yeah, let's talk. We didn't talk much about Kirk in this episode. Let's do that. So first week, I thought he looked really good. I know a lot of people gave him shit because he turned the wrong way on that fake handoff on the big shot to Jefferson, and then the ball was kind of an inaccurate duck. I think he probably wanted to lead Jefferson upfield a little bit more. It would have been an easier touchdown. JJ still made it look cool. But the thing you like to see about Kirk in that game is, what did he do there? He sensed the pressure. He stepped up. And he got that throw downfield to Jefferson there. So, and he was doing that all day long, moving up in the pocket. You can tell he feels a lot more free in this offense. And I want to see him keep it up 2 weeks in a row against a pretty solid Philadelphia team that might turn into a shootout, and they're going to be sending some people after him. So I was very impressed with how he played, and I think he's going to have a good shot to do it all over again. So I'm super excited to see how he's going to play.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything different. I mean, he has so much talent around him, and he is a good quarterback, especially if he's not rushed. I think still the thing with me is I still hope will continue to take a little bit more shots downfield and field a little chances. I mean, don't get me wrong. Last game, it was perfect. Like, error free, no interceptions. That could have killed us again, especially against a Green Bay Packer team. And we can say that every single week where we play a team and it's like, he's not making any mistakes, though. He's not making any mistakes. We're winning these games. But then just for another week where that we lose because Kirk was being too conservative and, you weren't chucking the ball down the field. And that's what we needed to do to win. And, you kind of get both of those. And Kirk Cousins, that's kind of was some of my beef with Kirk Cousins before. So I just want to see that to continue improve and just take a shot down the field, even if like Justin Jefferson's pretty covered. I feel like he wins that battle every time, as long as it's 1v1 or whatever.
Right.
But
sure.
I mean, you got to be happy to have a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes.
And he threw the ball well enough to get a third touchdown with JJ. He didn't get both feet down on that one, but that was a good throw too, right where it had to be. So I thought Kirk played really well. It's a good start to the season for him, and I think he's gonna have a good matchup here against Philadelphia. So obviously Jared Goff threw for 215 and 2 touchdowns against them. So with the talent on this offense, that offensive line, if they can be bullies this game, I think Kirk could have a lot of time, and I think Delvin could have a lot of room to run, because that's what the Lions did against them. And the Lions, they have good players. Kirk's way better than Goff. I think Delvin's obviously still better than Swift, and JJ's better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's be honest. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's going to be a really good receiver. He already is. I think he's going to get even better. I personally think he's the second best receiver in the NFC North. Some people may laugh at that one, but I'd put him up there. I think he's really, really good at this point. But just those guys doing that to the Eagles, I think JJ and Thielen are going to have a field day against these guys. So.
I think the Packers defense is a bigger problem than almost in every facet, from a defensive rush and the pass coverage standpoint. They got so much talent there, and we tore them up. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't crazy tear up. Yeah. Justin Jefferson was crazy tear up, but where the ball's going, and Justin Jefferson still did that against a defense like the Packers, who have studs at the defensive line and as cornerbacks. Right. Yeah. And I don't think the Eagles have near that talent, so I don't see why our offense can't keep killing. And I really think that we have. I seriously think that we have top 5 talented offense. I
do think the biggest weakness of this team is cornerback, and I think that will get tested this week. And if Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter can keep doing what they did this last week, I think they're going to be fine. I mean, the Eagles, give them credit; they only allowed 1 sack against the Lions. So,
I mean, still we have AJ Brown is. You have to worry about AJ Brown, right? But Jalen, it's not like Jalen Hurts is close to Aaron Rodgers from a passing standpoint. Not even close. He's like bottom half of the league as far as a passer goes. Obviously, you have to worry about his legs, but that's why if you can stop his legs and make him beat you with his arm, I don't care. Like, I think our cornerbacks were able to hold Aaron Rodgers without any touchdowns. Obviously, the pass rush was a big part of that. But yeah, if we can just stop that run, I just don't see any way our defense can take a back step compared to week 1. And same with our offense. So I think it's wild. Everybody think 2.5 underdogs. Come on now.
Yeah, I do think this is going to end up being a high scoring affair. Speaking of scores, let's get into some score predictions here. Give me, what do you think this game's going to be, and who's going to be your breakout player this week?
I'm gonna say 28 us, 28 Vikings. I'm gonna go back to 17. Last week it was 24-17. We actually won. What was the final score? 24-7?
20 to 7 or 23-7, I think.
23-7.
Yep.
So 22-7. So it's actually a little bit better than I was expecting. But I think our pass rush is going to be that good. I don't think these guys are going to destroy our defense again. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring. I think we're on our way to having an overall good team from every facet of our game.
Yep.
And I don't think I think we're going to be more like Kansas City and the Cardinals last week, where Casey went in there and just beat up on them, even though there's tons of talent on the offensive Cardinals. So but I'm still giving them 17 points. I think it'll be high scoring mostly for us. I don't think they're getting over 20 points. As far as players go, and predictions go, I'm picking 2 players. Justin Jefferson, that's an obvious one. He's going to get at least 1 touchdown against the team that passed him up. To pick my second guy, Jalen Reagor, who also is going to score a touchdown in this game. So I want to touchdown, at least 1 from Justin Jefferson, at least 1 from Jalen Reagor, make Eagles eat their shit. And yeah, that's my prediction.
I like it. I'm going to go a little closer. I'm going to go 27-24 Vikings. I think this is going to be a really high scoring affair. I think this, or not, I guess that's not super high scoring, but I think this is going to be a ton of fun to watch. For my players, I want to pick 2 as well. I'm going to go, my first one, I'm going to go Delvin, because I think seeing what DeAndre Swift did last week, I think Delvin's going to have a huge game this week. I know I mentioned it when we were talking about receivers. I think Thielen's going to come out and have a good game. I think the Eagles are going to be smart and put some attention to JJ, who's still going to get his, as I said. But I think Adam Thielen's going to come out and end up having a really good game himself. I'm going to say he's going to have 90 yards and a touchdown. Is that flashy? No. But for Thielen, what happened, with what happened last week, I think he's going to come out big. I think he's going to have a lot of catches, the red zone touchdown. I think it's going to be good. I think Thielen's going to have a good game.
Yeah, I think from a coaching standpoint, I mean, if you for the Eagles to watch, go back and watch the game tape of how we handled the first week with Justin Jefferson. As a head coach, man, you got to think like we should go in this game, and like I already said before, is just sling it to Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne early in the game, because they are going to try to pay attention to Justin Jefferson, which, like we already said, like maybe the Packers were too, and Justin Jefferson's just too good. Yeah. But I do think, like, as a coach, I feel like you go in and you kind of just, you pick on them with the other wide receivers because they're so worried about Justin Jefferson. And then you set all that up to just set Justin Jefferson up in different parts of the game. Obviously, you still want to use them. And I loved how KOC had Justin Jefferson going all over the field in the backfield. It's like you can just tell, man. He came here and he's like, all right, Justin Jefferson's our best player. This offense is going to work around him. We're going to set him up, every slot out or behind the quarterback, everything. And these defenses are never going to know what to do. And it does remind you of how they use Cooper Kupp. And that's why Justin Jefferson is going to have the best season a receiver's ever had in NFL history.
And honestly, it's like, I'm surprised neither of us picked 38-7 for our score. That'd have been kind of funny. And as well, I think, and the big thing now, like the biggest thing in this game from a non-player perspective, but also a player perspective, is the Vikings have been getting some media hype this week. They've been raising in the power rankings. People have been talking about Justin Jefferson being up there. Kirk Cousins, I know a few people have mentioned MVP, as we already knew about. So the big thing is, can Kevin O'Connell do what Mike Zimmer couldn't do? And when this team has a little bit of expectation and there's noise around them, can he keep them level-headed, and can he keep them in the game and learn how to coach a team that finally has some expectations? I think Kevin O'Connell is going to do it. We're going to find out Monday night on Monday Night Football. Thanks, guys, for watching this video. We'll be back with you to talk about the review of this game after it's over. We'll see you guys next time on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.